What's up, everyone? Here in the state of Idaho, there's a name that always keeps popping up, popping up, popping up in the sport of wrestling. And that name is Hudson Rogers. He's a national champion, a state champion. He's always competing at a very high level. And I had the chance to meet Hudson just a couple months back and chatted with him at a local restaurant. And, I hit him up and I said, hey, let's get this interview done, man. I would love to highlight your story and learn from you. And I'm so glad that we got it recorded because this interview is so insightful. It's so cool to hear from young athletes who are competing at a very, very high level, who are known on a national scale for the work ethic they put in and for the way that they're able to just consistently compete at a high level. And so for those who are listening, whether you know Hudson or maybe you don't, I hope you guys take note, get out your notepads, pay attention to this interview because you'll learn about his work ethic. You'll learn about weight cutting. You'll learn about discipline. You'll learn about mental toughness. You'll learn about his hobbies that he has and how he avoids burnout from the sport that he's been competing in since he was 3 years old, and we'll learn about what he's excited for and what he's going to be bringing to the table in his college career. So there's a lot of cool discussion here in this 45-minute episode, and I hope you guys enjoy it. It's really, really awesome, and I'm super grateful for him joining us. And I just want to say thanks to everybody who's sponsored the podcast. I would highly encourage you guys to check out the links in the description of this podcast for some of the sponsors. If you're an entrepreneur and you want to start a business, and you want to utilize a software such as ClickFunnels, I would encourage you guys to take a look and get it for a discounted price. You can use my link, my GTG link here in the description. It's super awesome. You can get it for a discounted price. And if you have any questions regarding it, regarding the software, hit me up. I'm pretty well versed in how to use it and how to scale your business with it. So all the sponsors of the show, links are in the description. Get ready for this one. We're talking to the national champion, state champion himself, Hudson Rogers, here on the Gametime Guru. So,
what time is it? Game time!
This is the Gametime Guru podcast, where I interview sports figures from all over the world to help deliver a panoramic view on sports. So whether you're a former athlete, one of the crazies, or simply a casual sports fan, this is the perfect show for you as we peel back the curtains and learn from our guests every single week. I'm your host, Shane Larson, and I'm helping you see sports through a different lens.
What's up, everybody? Welcome out to another episode of the Gametime Guru podcast. My name is Shane Larson, host of the show, 7.5 years running now. I started this show back in 2017. And as I've said it in every interview, but just in case you guys haven't, joined before, maybe this is your first time listening, this show has now been downloaded in 182 countries in all 50 states. So we have listeners across the entire world. And this is a show that I started in my kitchen, in my old house in 2017, just trying to have fun with something. And I've been running with it for 7.5 years straight. And it's thanks in large part to everybody who's been on the show, anybody who's listened, anyone who's followed or shared the podcast. With just every single little tiny thing goes a long way because that's how it's gotten out to so many people. Never thought it would be this far, and here it is. So super excited to bring our guest on today. We're talking about the sport of wrestling. And as you guys heard in the introduction, the interviews that I've done with wrestlers have always been very intriguing. I mean, we've talked to Matt Brown, we've talked to Ben Kerr, we've had other wrestlers on the show in the past, and guys who fought, I shouldn't say fought, who wrestled for like Sanderson out of Penn State. We've got world champions like Ben Kerr, and we learn about just what it takes to wrestle at a high level. And this is why I'm really excited to bring on our guest today. His name's Hudson Rogers. He went to school at my alma mater. I'm a Meridian alum myself, class of 2006. And it's cool to see that he's not only like destroying the entire state of Idaho with his wrestling, but he's, known very well outside as a national champion himself. So Hudson, thanks for joining the show, man.
Yeah, of course.
And so here's the deal. In the media here, I have an opportunity to be pretty involved in the sports media world, especially in the high school side here. I coach basketball, so I'm pretty well involved with like the high school scene here. And your name just kept popping up, like all the time. Like Hudson Rogers, another title, championship. Is he going to win another one? Like all these little things just kept popping up. And I had actually never met you until I was at lunch with a friend of mine named Griffin Deer. And I was at lunch eating at Costa Vida, and I actually met you in person. I knew who you were, but I never met you. And I'm just like blown away at all the accolades that you have, like all the accomplishments, the awards. But I want to like rewind the clock, Hudson, and kind of get to know you before now. Like let's rewind the clock and talk about your wrestling career and just what kind of got you into athletics. So did you grow up with a lot of wrestlers in the family, or were you the only one? Talk to us about like when you got into the sport and why.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, wrestling's been huge in our family. My dad was my coach when I was super little. I live in my like hometown is Gooding, Idaho, super small farm town. We grew up on a farm my whole life, and I mean, I was here till my sophomore year until I moved to Meridian. But yeah, my brother was wrestling, and my cousins and stuff. I was like on the mat about 3, and my parents would like say I was 5 so I could compete, and it was pretty. So I mean, I've been doing this since I can't even remember, and like me and my brother and dad were at a wrestling tournament when my little sister was born. So I mean, wrestling's just kind of been everything for me, at least. Like I feel like all my decisions have always kind of came off how it's gonna affect my wrestling career or what it's gonna do for it. But yeah, so I started off in Gooding Cobra, a little wrestling club down in Gooding, and then lead it on to I started training with a bunch of my buddies and met Coach Bartlett, who was at Mountain View. And so we started a wrestling club called Bull Catcher, and then we started training there. I was driving to Boise like 3-4 times a week, and then with whatever tournaments we hit on the weekends with Coach Bartlett, and then I got like so many crazy buddies, and yeah, and like leads on to like now we have I think like five to 7 of us are D1. Like it's actually crazy, and like it was a small group, and then it got bigger, and then it probably leads to like now there's probably like 12 to 15 of us wrestling in college. So it's like kind of crazy, like kind of the group we led into, and then it led on to Boise State dropped their program in 2016. So I was about I think like fourth or fifth grade, and our coach now, the development coach of Idaho, Chris Owens, he kind of took over my group when our coach Barley he's kind of slowly like he's just not coaching as much. He's just been taking a lot more time for the family and just stuff like that. And so Coach Owens came in our life and kind of took over, and we all made Team Idaho, and everyone made some crazy jumps, and it's been pretty cool.
Man, it's been a journey for you then, man. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I have a question then. If you started so early, 3 years old, you're on the mats. Did you compete in any other sports, or were you basically doing wrestling all year round, pretty much your entire life?
Pretty much my entire life, I've always like balanced everything through wrestling. I mean, like when I was little, like obviously, like I tried all the sports. Played football, soccer, baseball, tried them all, but like never stuck to them for very long. And then I played football all the way up to my sophomore year. That's kind of what actually led to my injury my sophomore year. I ended up tearing my ACL and having to sit out my sophomore year and playing football. So kind of crazy, but I played football in Gooding with like the big tight end in Michigan, Colson Loveland. So yeah, that's like one of my homies.
Oh, you might need to connect me with Colson. See, I'm a Buckeyes fan. I don't know if you can tell behind that. I'm a huge Buckeyes fan, but I do have a lot of respect for Colson because I was just about to say this too. Like as you were talking, I was going to tell the listeners, like if you go and Google Gooding, Idaho, like you probably won't even find it. There's like 5,000 people there. I don't know. Like the population's pretty low. I mean, that might be an exaggeration or it might be spot on, but it's a small little town, right?
Yeah, I think it's 500. Yeah.
Okay.
Like
See, it's pretty small, but there are some athletes that can come out of Gooding, like small town living, dude. You guys have that blue collar, like work ethic, and you just get to work, man. It's just surprising how many like awesome athletes come out of that small town. It's amazing. Question for you, Hudson.
Yeah.
Okay, so growing up, you're wrestling pretty much your entire life. You tried out other sports. Football, unfortunately, caused an injury, a pretty severe one, sophomore year. But wrestling has been kind of what you said you balanced everything around. And I'm curious. There's a lot of athletes and a lot of businessmen and women that like when they do something and it's their passion, sometimes they get burnt out from it because they're doing it so much. And so they lose the passion of it. Even with this podcast, like I wanted to make sure I never lost the passion of interviewing athletes and sports figures. So like I had a plan from the day I started in 2017 to make sure that I would never burn out. And I want to ask you that, like, it's a pretty grinding sport. So how have you gone about not burning out?
Like in my mind, like I've always seen it as like kind of like a mindset of like burnout. You know what I mean? Like I feel like we train so much and we train so hard all the time. Definitely have to have a balance. And I feel like as I've been in high school and like as I was hurt, I learned like like I gotta have fun outside of practice too. So I've learned to have more of a balance that way. But as a kid, I mean, man, I loved it so much. You couldn't get me off the mat or not to go to practice. But like I would say probably like in my middle like range from 5th grade to 8th grade, I was practicing like 9 times a week, and it just got to be so much. Like it was just like I could see I was kind of like fatigued and tired of tournaments. Like I just wasn't the same. Like I wasn't hungry to go compete. So I think like I kind of went through that phase of like where I was like struggling a little bit and like kind of like a little burnt out. And I didn't like really, I just kept doing it because it's all I ever knew was to just keep training and keep training and keep getting better. But I mean, I definitely think there's got to be a balance. You know what I mean? Like there was like, I mean, there was that time in my life, and then there's just like last summer I was coming off an injury and like I broke my ankle, and I was coming back for Fargo last summer, and I was struggling to just like find that want to compete again, like that drive. And I just think it comes and goes sometimes, like burnout's a real thing though, for sure.
That's interesting, man. And you talk about injuries. So you've talked about an ankle, you've talked about an ACL. Injuries are huge, and I've talked about it on my show before, like my own injury. I mean, I was actually still competing into my mid-20s until I tore my shoulder out and had to have surgery, and that kind of like derailed me. I was older at that point, and I was like, you know what do I got to play for anymore? Let's just have some fun now. But like it was hard for me to come back. So I've talked to other athletes about injuries and like the mental struggle it is to come back because it's so hard to get back to your physical capabilities because you're hindered to a certain degree. I'm curious if you could give some insight as to how you were able to recover from those injuries and, come back strong, if not stronger, because you kept winning titles after that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm super lucky to have an awesome supportive family, and with God in my life, I feel like I can do anything, and with him on my side, and yeah, with my parents and the great support system I have, and my coaching staff that I have, like that supports me, and I think I'm just super lucky and grateful for what I have. I just feel like it makes it so much easier to recover from injuries and just stay positive.
How do you stay patient when, you're on the grind, getting back into the flow of things, but you can only do certain things for certain, like as you progress and your body gets back to normal? How do you stay patient? Was there anything that you did specifically that just helped you like be like, okay, I'm not where I was yet, but I know if I just trust the process, I'll get there. How did you remain patient without getting so antsy and freaking out?
Yeah, when I tore my ACL, man, that was probably like probably like the hardest time of my life. Like I don't know, man, it was so freaking hard. Like 8 months. Like I got back on the mat around 7, started drilling, but I didn't compete till 10, 11. But I was pushing it, and yeah, I mean, I just had, like I said, like my coach Owens, like Chris Owens, like he stood by me. We had a plan the whole time, and he helped me recover. And I mean, it was so hard, but like I kind of like I stayed in contact with my PT and my coaches, kept them on the same page, and we just kind of followed a plan. And I did what I could whenever I could, and like I took advantage of every opportunity. Like if I could run 2 miles that day, I was running 2 miles. If I could work out that day, I was getting all my work in. So I mean, I think whatever, like I've always been pretty driven on getting back to the mat when I'm not on the mat, and I was finding any way possible to stay in shape and just keep up, like stay on the grind.
That's so awesome. I hope people are listening to that. Take note of that if you can. Just like do what you can when you can, and just trust the process because eventually you'll get there. It's just you have to do what you can when you can and take advantage of the opportunities as you continuously progress within those injuries and so forth. So as of the last year or so, I noticed that you were wrestling at 182. Is that right? Like that
Yeah,
was the weight
this,
class?
yeah, this high school season I wrestled 182.
Okay, 182. And prior to that, like what was the lowest you ever wrestled at in high school, I should say, when you were in
This
high school?
year or what?
Or just all through high school? What was the lowest weight? Like what was the
Yeah,
lowest you started at?
I won my first state title in Gooding at 132, so I was super small, but
So
I
you
was
went
I
go
was
ahead, go ahead. Go ahead.
weight for 32. I was probably walking around 45, 48. Like I was pretty big. We had two of my other buddies that had lived in Gooding my whole life, and then my cousin. We went 3 in a row in the state finals, so it was pretty sweet. And I was like, I could scrap with them both. Like it was pretty close. I just didn't have like that muscle yet. Like I was still pretty young, so we went 32, 38, 45, and we all won. It's pretty sick.
Dude, that's actually really sick. But for 132 to 182 in a 4-year window, essentially, basically, it's like that's a big jump, man. Like that's crazy. Like
So that year, I wrestled my freshman year when I wrestled 32. By the end of summer, I was weighing 60, cutting to 45 for Fargo. So I mean, I just grew like no other. It was crazy.
wow, man, that's wild. I know that there's some rules and regulations now as compared to when I was in high school in regards to weight cutting. Can you elaborate on like what the actual like what's allowed? I know that there's some sort of hydration clause of some sort. Like what?
High
Can
school
you
season,
explain the weight cuts?
yeah, for sure. Like to be honest, like you can like if you're cutting healthy and like doing it the right way, I think you can. I mean, you can get away with pretty much anything. But like in high school season, like IHSA rules is we have to do a hydration test and we have to body fat test. So like see what our body fat percentage is to see what the lowest we can go to is. And I mean, yeah, you kind of like, I mean, you gotta like, if you want to get there, you kind of got to get as low as you can being hydrated. So it's pretty hard, to like cut a whole lot of weight during high school season. But like, there's also, I mean, you just find a way to do it. You know what I mean? Like I mean, it is, like just like anything, if you want to make that weight, you're gonna make a weight and be hydrated when you do it. So I mean, and like in the off season wrestling, I mean, there's no rules like that. Just like at USA Wrestling events, we can't be caught, like we can't be wearing plastics and stuff. So
Oh,
yeah. So like if you're on camp or like on campus of the tournament, or you know what I mean. So you just can't be seen in plastics, or else I think you just get DQ'd. I don't really know, but
oh, see, that even that is educational for me because I didn't realize that. I mean, I come from the boxing world. It's a little less structured. It's like anything kind of goes at that point. People are cutting like 20, 30 pounds in a 2-day window. It happens quite frequently. You're sitting in the sauna, you got plastics on you. I mean, you're doing every single thing you can to cut every single ounce that you possibly can.
and don't
It's actually wild.
and don't kid yourself. Like I mean, I've been in plastics so many times I can't even count. It sucks, but I mean, you know what I mean? Like you still got to do it. Just like, like they just say like some of those are the rules. Like you can't do that. And then, yeah, I mean, you got to do what you got to do to get your weight off. You know what I mean?
So tell me this. I talked to a guy. He's a friend of mine. His name's Russell Brunson. And
Yeah.
yeah. So Russell, he coached at Rocky. There was a certain thing that happened this year. But anyway, he's a good friend of mine. He used to be my boss over at ClickFunnels, and really like that guy. He's very insightful when it came to the sport of wrestling. He talked about weight cutting one time, and he explained some of the things that worked best for him. He talked about like eating Jolly Ranchers was like a way to get like saliva out of his mouth, like little
Yeah.
things that he would do. But he also mentioned to me, he still competes in like the older man, like the 40 and over tournaments that are around here and stuff. And he was saying that like when he would just put on layers and actually wrestle with someone, he would dump weight, like just dump water. I'm just curious, what have you found to be the most efficient and effective way to cutting weight?
For sure. I mean, in high school season, like something like I never did this year, and like the past 2 years, I've not cut any weight because I was like, man, it's such a grind, and like I want to be so good, I don't have to cut weight. I was kind of like that mindset. But like whenever I need to, like at bigger tournaments we go to during the high school season, like Reno TOC or Ironman, I would, like during that week, I'd probably come in with tights on, sweats over the top and long sleeve and another crew neck, and then I tape my sleeves and I put my socks over my sweats, and like that's kind of just like what I wear to practice probably that whole week. And yeah, and like we don't wear plastics to practice, but like we wear, like we layer up, and I probably like in those practices I can get 5 to 8 off sometimes. So
Wow.
yeah, like I mean practice is brutal as is, and then with that on you're hot, you know what I mean?
That's crazy, dude. That's crazy. So, Hudson, tell me this: like, as a high schooler that's competing at an extremely high level, you're not just focused on the high school. You're one of the unique wrestlers, one of the top ones in the country. So, like, you're in that top level of wrestlers. So, it's not just high school season that you're focused on. You've got nationals. You've got all these different tournaments that you're competing in. Can you explain to me, like, how you stay locked in for high school season? And I'll use this as an example. There's a lot of basketball players. I've coached basketball. I'm really highly involved in the basketball scene. And so a lot of people just don't care about the high school season. And a lot of the reasons for that is just because of like demographics, location, like their high school teams are not what they care about. Like they'll go and try to win, but it's all based on who lives where. But they care about their club season because they're going to go travel across the country and get recruited that way. That's what actually matters. Nobody really cares about their high school season except for a couple schools around here, at least. So like no one cares. The high school season doesn't matter. But like, when it comes to wrestling, I don't know how it works on that one. Do you because it's such an individual sport, and then you have the other stuff that you're working on too. I guess like, do you have a preference? Do you enjoy doing both, or like how do you stay focused on the national stuff too? It's seemingly a little bit more intense and higher level, at least from the outside looking in.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I would say like our club seasons, like it's where I got all my offers and recruited for sure. It seems like, I mean, I feel like in the end of the world, or end of the day, it's like club seasons probably like you're gonna see more people. You know what I mean? Like high school season. I mean, we travel like as I was in Meridian. I mean, I could have done it at Gooding too. I went to two of the top two tournaments in the whole entire country. Like you can't beat them. Like they're like, it doesn't matter, every prep school, every school, anybody that's good that their state allows you to go, they're going to be there. Like and you have to be a state champ to get into the tournament. So, I mean, the high school season, like I would say I treat it as the same, but like, I also like have a lot more fun in high school season because it's like, I'm like, I don't know how to put it. It's like, I feel like it's a grind for sure. Like, and I love it, but it's also funner for me. Like sometimes because I feel like in the off season and club season we're practicing so much, and to be honest, I only probably get to compete 4 to 5 times in the summer, maybe 3 to 4 actually, and I get a bunch of matches, but I would say, like in high school season, you're competing every week. You got a duel on a Wednesday and a tournament on a Friday, Saturday most of the time. So, I mean, I just love that you get to compete more in high school season. And club season, like, definitely, I would say, like you said, like, offers are rolling in from club season. And, like, that's where we're going to see all the other guys we aren't seeing during high school season because you have all those, you gotta wrestle a duel on Wednesday. And you know what I mean? Like, it's just like, I don't know how to, like, put it into words besides, like, yeah, I would say high school season's definitely not as serious as the club season we've taken. But in Idaho, I feel like in wrestling, like I think in any state, you're probably gonna be like, hey, all the people know about this, so I want to win this tournament. You know what I mean? I want to put on a show because people know this is what we care about. They don't understand the national scene. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's awesome, dude. That's super insightful.
Yeah.
I want to know from a champion like yourself. I always commend wrestlers in their mentality. Like there's a mental strength required to be able to compete. You have to stay locked in, dude. And it can get super frustrating if you make a mistake at a high level. When you make those mistakes, it can be costly and stuff. And so you have to stay locked in quite frequently. Not just physically, do you have to be in tip-top shape, but you've got to be mentally locked in. And I want to know, what have you been able to do in your career, Hudson, that's allowed you to stay mentally locked in? Is there anything you do to prepare from a mental standpoint? Is there music you listen to? Do you have like a certain routine you go through before a match? Is there something that you do that just allows you to slow the match down the way that you see it?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like before any match, like it doesn't even. I get nervous before all my matches, so like it doesn't matter if the kid's not good or the kid's insane. Like I get nervous before all my matches, so I mean, I always like 4 to 5 matches out. I'm pacing back and forth. I'm bouncing a little bit. I mean, I kind of have I kind of feel like no, I don't do the exact same thing every time, but I feel like it's pretty close. And then like depends on the tournament or whatever I'm feeling that day. But sometimes I listen to music, sometimes I don't. Whatever. We just got back from Tulsa, Oklahoma, from 2 weeks ago from junior duels, and I like the first 2 days I didn't listen to music, and then the last 2 days I was sore and I needed to get going, so I needed to pace a little longer and get, just make sure my body was ready to go. So I put on the music to calm my nerves a little bit, and you know what I mean. Just I don't know, music always I feel like just turns it on and makes you lock in a little bit.
Totally. No, it's funny. I always talk about music. Like people always thought it was crazy because in boxing, I had to slow my heart rate down because I was so nervous before every match. So like I'd have to slow my heart rate down, and I would listen to Michael Jackson of all things, dude. Like people are like, you're not listening, because I would always listen to like Tech Nine and Bone Thugs and Harmony. I had all this like rap going on, and but before, like it was like 2 fights before my match, I'd always turn on Michael Jackson and listen to like Michael Jackson's music just to slow my heart rate down and get me to relax a little bit. And it was like people thought it was crazy, but it was just my routine of how to like lock in and stay dialed in. Otherwise, I'd get too nervous and too hyped up and too tense, and I'd probably get my butt kicked. And it's happened before, so that's why I like to ask that question. But I want to know, since wrestling, you don't really have an off season. It doesn't seem like it's kind of like always like, you got it in the back of your mind. You got to stay, on weight. You've got to be disciplined. But what is the training like for you, Hudson? How do you develop more strength and explosion? Usually for basketball, football, baseball, these traditional sports, soccer, like you have an off season, so you're putting time in the weight room. You're doing all these different things to help with your speed and agility. What does your training look like as a wrestler, one like yourself that's a national champion?
Yeah, so like to start the season at the end of like summer, like at the end of like July, we finish up Fargo. I actually head out next Saturday to go compete at Fargo, 5-day tournament, toughest tournament in the country. And yeah, I haven't won it yet. So I mean it's my last go at it and I'm ready out. I'm going all in. So but yeah, I would say like at the start of the season we do preseason stuff. I mean I was training at Rock and Armor a bunch, and I had preseason, like I hit Rock and Armor. I was hitting like 2 to 3 times a week, maybe 4, and then getting lifts on my own or runs on my own. And then we're practicing. We don't practice as much or as hard nearly. I would say it's a lot more technique. And I mean, we get our heart rates up every day to finish practice, but it's not nearly what it is in like high school season or peaking for Fargo. But we only normally hit like one tournament before high school season starts. And we went out to Iowa this year and I won preseason nationals. And so that was good coming off an injury of not reaching my goals at Fargo. And so it's always kind of nice to get off to a fresh start. We train like, it depends on the week, 2 to 3 times a week. And sometimes there's a camp on the weekends, but most of the time we're not training too crazy. And then sometimes the college coaches roll in at that time to recruit some of our buddies, and we have camps or they're taking home visits and run a few sessions. So, I mean, it's pretty chill. We can go have fun with the guys, our friends, like at school, watch football games. And then I'd say like once high school season hits, like we like keep up the list and stuff, but probably not as much during season. You know what I mean? Like I feel like you stay sharp. You're not trying to get stronger. You're just trying to hold what you got. I feel like more is like a way to put it. So like I don't know. I'm ready, and we would practice. Our room is pretty small, to be honest. So we would practice, and at the end of the day, like when we're going live and we need more space, someone hit the weight room and do a set pull ups or cleans or or push ups, and then we'd switch it out. And then, like I feel like staying like muscle like strong, we just we do a lot of push-ups and pull-ups during season. And I mean, we're training, every day that you're not competing in high school season, besides Sunday, I guess, right? So,
Yeah.
and then, on to Fargo, I mean, we're training in the summer. We train about 3 to 4 times a week, and then we have a lot of camps on the weekends. But I mean, coach keeps it pretty. I feel like he gives us a good amount of time off, so we're still like want to be on the mat, like he said, not to be burnt out. And he like wants us to like still want the smell of the wrestling room. That's what he always says to us. It's kind of funny. He's like, I want you guys to have a few days off because I want you guys to come back and love the smell of the wrestling room. So yeah, and we pick up
cool.
we just got done last week. I was telling you, we had a Fargo prep camp. It's 5 days. It's like Simics are like our Fargo tournament that we're gonna go to. It's 3 days freestyle and 2 days Greco. And so we have a day off in between, but we did the 5-day camp. We just finished up last on Wednesday. We did Saturday to Wednesday.
Dude, that's so cool, man. Listen, I remember in high school when we would be playing basketball, we would training. So we had our basketball practices are on the court. The wrestling room at Meridian is like literally right next to the basketball court. It's under the bleacher area over there. But I remember there were 2 different practices that were going on when we were doing sprints, and I'm like literally about to die running sprints for basketball. And I remember it was 2 separate practices where I was just drained, tired. And the wrestlers, this is back in the early 2000s, 2006, they were upstairs running stair laps at Meridian. There's the stair laps, right? And what they were doing is they were carrying another wrestler while they were running their stair laps, which I don't know how they did that. Like, I don't even know how they did that. I don't even know how their legs held up for that. And I remember them crying. Like, we were watching heavyweights, and dude, there were some big boys that we had at our school, and they were like carrying each other and barely even like walking little by little, but they had to finish it. So they had to keep going, and they were crying as they were going. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I complaining about over down here playing basketball? Like, this is nothing. And then there was another practice. They were up on the other side of like the auxiliary gym upstairs doing sprints themselves. And there was a garbage can that was right next to like the corner where they can overlook the basketball court. And they were just heaving, dude. Everyone's just puking. And they'd finish, you could hear them like, they were like crying, and they were like, just like having a hard time. And you look up and just another person, just like going into the trash can. Then they're back to running. And I'm like, holy freaking A, dude. Meridian has like this very hardcore wrestling style. And that was back in the day. I don't know if you, at this point, if they talk about them, but the Gentry brothers, there was 3 Gentry brothers that were just dominant in Meridian wrestling for like 4 or 5 years straight. There was a younger one. But the Gentry brothers were like pretty hardcore back then. And so, yeah, we had a winning culture back then, and it looks like they brought it back now. They got a winning culture at Meridian. It's a winning mentality. And so
we just won our 4th straight title. I mean, Meridian's like, we just said the 5A record. It never been done this year. We're the first school in 5A history to win 4 straight. So it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, there's a winning mentality, winning culture. And I wanted to ask you, you're a winner yourself. And obviously like that brings into the culture and everything. And I want to ask you, who's one of your favorite coaches that's taught you the most at Meridian High School so far in your high school season? I'm talking specifically for high school. Who's a coach that's taught you something, and tell us what it was that they taught you that you can take with you to the next level?
I would say Brad Murray, our head coach. I mean, that dude has a special place in my heart. Him and his brother John, I mean, they're some of the best dudes I've ever been around in my life. I mean, what they speak on and off the mat is just like special. I mean, there's a reason why they have so many guys. They say we recruit, but it's like there's so many guys that just like want to be a part of that program. Like, they didn't recruit me once. I just knew like I love those guys and how they've like even when I wasn't on their team, they were talking to me at practice and stuff, like when I come up to Meridian for 1 time a week for our Coach Owens practices, like those guys have built a relationship with me before I was even there, and they're just some really good dudes. Like they just I mean, I don't even know. Everything they always say is just so like inspiring to me. And I would say Brad. I mean, that dude just always tells me like I slap his hand super hard before I run out on the mat. And he's always like, "Have some fun, man." Like he's like, "Believe in yourself. Like you work harder than anyone, you know." So I would just say like anything that comes out of that guy's mouth, I believe it and I trust him, you know.
Yeah, that's so cool. Shout out to the coach. I mean, to that point you just made, it's interesting how like when a program starts being super successful, there's all the outsiders start having something to say. Oh, they're recruiting. Oh, they're doing this. I mean, I hear it all the time in the media, dude. All for a lot of sports, and it's like, dude, listen. If somebody's winning, why not want to be like if you want to win? Why wouldn't you want to be a part of a program that's winning? You know what I mean? Like, why wouldn't you want to compete with somebody that's a winning coach and has built a winning culture? Because I can assure you that's not the case everywhere you go. Like some of them just don't care. They're there to collect a paycheck, and that's literally what it is. And so, like it's cool to hear that, your coach has done that. He has developed that authentically with good relationships and good coaching.
I mean, a good like prime example, like those guys are freaking sitting here on the 4th of July. They're all selling fireworks in the booths and Star because like they don't care at all about the money. They're all in it for us kids. You know what I mean? Like they're taking. I mean, they've been traveling with us camps from camp to camp this summer, and they're at practice like twice a week, 3 times a week. Even when our other coach, like my coach, our club coach, he coached Brad in college at Boise State, and like they're going to Fargo with us for 7 days. Like those guys are so bought into us and like give us everything we could ever need, you know?
That's so cool, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's
Super dope. So tell me, what's one of your favorite matches up to this point? I know you got Fargo in a week from the time this is being recorded. But like, what's one of your favorite matches or tournaments that you've competed in your life, Hudson? Up to this point, I'm sure there's gonna be more. And what made it so special for you?
Oh man, that's a hard one. I don't know. I'd say probably one of my like as a kid, and I'll say one as a kid and one as I've been in high school. But like as I was a kid, we'd go to Tulsa Nationals every year. It's the toughest tournament in the country as a kid. Like they literally say it on like our trophies. I actually have a trophy. Let me grab it real quick. It's right here.
Okay.
It's yeah, I won it once, but they give us these big old eagles every year, and like
That's sick.
yeah, and so first gets a massive one, second's a little smaller than first, and then third gets one, and then you get a medal. You get a medal if you're getting fourth through sixth. And so like it was always like the goal every year was to go freaking win another Tulsa title. And as a kid, I mean, I don't even know, like my brackets were insane. Like I was looking at my bracket the other day, and like one of the top 6 brackets, like 4 of those dudes are already ranked top 10 in the country. Like they're at some of the biggest Big Ten schools you can even go to. So it's like it's kind of crazy. Like that was the tournament, and I won it when I was 8, and it was on my birthday. So that was probably one of my favorite tournaments.
That's sick.
In high school, I'd say, I mean, Folk Out Nationals every year is a fun one. All the boys, it's like our first tournament back together after high school season, and we always go scrap, and I feel like we always throw down. And I mean, I've won it the past 2 years and brought home a stop sign. And one of my best friends, Mac Mugger, he's won it. He's won it every single year in high school. He's four times, and I mean that dude, he's freaking something else. So that one was always a fun trip. I mean, this year I think I had 4 1-point matches leading up to my finals. Like it was insane. Like it's just always you got to freaking be ready to bang, you know.
That's what kind of goes back to my whole question of like your mentality. There's some like anxious moments if you're having those close matches and you can't make a mistake. Like you have to compete at a high level. You make a mistake, you lose when you're at higher levels and the stakes are higher. Like usually that's what happens. It's in any sport. Like the higher level you go, the less mistakes you can make. Otherwise it's going to be costly. And this is crazy, dude. That's cool. But that develops you into a much better wrestler. You're more prepared for those moments, and it makes it fun. Like you no longer fear those types of moments. You actually look forward to them. You like them. You like that pressure. It's cool to watch. So you're wearing a Utah Valley shirt because this is where you are going to be going to school and competing for Utah Valley, going down to UVU. Talk to us about that, Hudson. Talk to us about your decision to go to UVU and what you're looking forward to in that next step in your career.
Yeah, I'm super, super excited. I mean, I committed about a little over a month ago now. Like I flipped my commitment from Oregon State, and yeah, I'm super excited. I mean, the coaching staff at UVU is something super special, and like I wouldn't say like everything's like shiny and nice there, you know, like I feel like I'm not really chasing the shiny things. Like I went on some super really cool visits and stuff to the college when I was narrowing down my decision. And like UVU's like, I mean, I wouldn't say it's like everything like I've ever wanted in a program, but the coaching staff is everything I could ever need. So I feel like that's what I'm chasing. And I don't need a fancy weight room or a wrestling room to get better and be a national champ. Like I need a freaking coach that is bought in on me and cares about me. And I feel like Coach Hall and the coaching staff at UVU, like as they built in this past like 3 months of him, Coach Hall getting the job, I couldn't feel like more. I don't know. I feel like I couldn't feel more loved and like supportive, and I just know they're going to be on my team for like through the next 5 years, but also throughout life. And okay, Coach Hall, yeah, he got over there, and I went down like 3 weeks ago and spent a good week down there, and man, I love it. Like it's going to be awesome. Like the coaching staff is so freaking awesome, and I'm super lucky. I've had that relationship with Coach Hall since about like I've known him for a while, but freshman year he came down to Fargo camp and ran the session when he was still coaching NC State, and he wrestled for my club coach, Coach Owens at Boise State. So like that connection, like just leads down that path, like just like to buy in. I know like if Coach Owens buys into me and those guys are going to buy into me too. And like, I'm a big believer in relationships, and like, I need to have a good relationship with my coaches to be able to, I feel like just to be on my team to support me. Like when I'm deep in a match and those guys are yelling something, I'm going to do it. You know what I mean? So I'm super,
dude.
and I also, another,
oh, go ahead. Sorry.
So some of my best friends are coming with now. One of my very best friends, Jay Castanetto, he's coming with me, and I'm super, super excited. So he flipped just recently too. So
wow. So Coach Hall's he's kind of doing the thing where people they got their eyes over at UVU now. You know what I mean? So I want everyone to rewind this little snippet of what Hudson just said about relationships. I love what you just said there. I've said it myself too, and I've said it from a player's perspective and as a coach now. Like, if you have a good relationship with a coach, you have no idea how much you can leverage that in the future, whether that's for sports and even after your athletic career might be done. You have no idea how many connections these men and women have. So be respectful to your coaches, build authentic relationships with them, listen to them, do what they're asking you. Like things like this, like Hudson just said, like, dude, opportunities might come about that you don't even realize just because of relationships you have with certain people who are connected to so-and-so. As I've gotten older, I'm in my mid 30s now, and it's like they always used to say it's not what you know, it's who you know. I think it's a mixture of both. You got to know a couple of things, but you need to know a lot of people and have authentic relationships with them, because the networking is so important in today's world. And I think it's super cool that, you have that. You're respected by your coaches and you respect your coaches. And that's why you are able to take advantage of certain opportunities like that and build relationships. It's super cool.
I agree. Yeah.
UVU, I want to shout out that program. As those who are listening might know, I had Ben Kerr on my show. He wrestled for them back in, like, I believe it was 2010, 2011, 2012, that era. He's an All-American stud wrestler. Now he's an entrepreneur, motivational speaker. He's also wrestling now. He's a world champion now, the 40 and over club. And he's going to be down there. I'm sure he'll show up to some of the practices because he's always training over there still, like to try to get ready for his own tournament. So I'm sure he'll.
When I was in the room like 3 weeks ago, he was in there. He slapped me on the butt and he's like, "What's up, dude? I'm so happy you're coming." He's a freaking legend, dude.
Dude, he's a stud, man. So I'm happy to see that two people that I know now are going to be able to kind of cross over. That's super awesome. Yeah, tell him I said what's up. I love Ben. He's a good dude. Outside of wrestling, Hudson, I want to know what do you enjoy doing? Do you enjoy doing video games? Do you enjoy reading? Do you enjoy hanging out with friends? Like, what do you enjoy doing in your free time that's outside of the sport of wrestling?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'll play games here and there, like Madden or 2K with the boys, but like I'm not much of a gamer, and I don't really like to read, to be honest. Like if it's something like sports related, or something inspirational, or I don't know, just mindset wise. But yeah, I love freaking hanging out with my buddies. It's like one of my favorite things ever. I mean, I feel like I go every day. I don't go a day without seeing my homies when I'm in town, and like. Yeah, I love my family too. I love spending time with my family. I have a little sister and a big brother, and then I have a lot of little cousins. So I mean, family and friends are like some of my favorite things to do is spend time with my cousins and friends. I mean, this sports we took the boat out and we go boating all day, and we have a boat, and then even like last night, just hanging out with me and my brother and my cousin went golfing, and we just like, whatever it is, like I'm not the best golfer, but whatever it is, I feel like we're always having fun or cracking jokes and, just make the best of it.
Heck yeah, man. That's what it's all about. Having a good relationship with family and friends, like that stuff's important because yeah, eventually at some point the wrestling days will end and you need to have those relationships with family and friends because that's what will stick with you. You know what I mean? I think that's super, super cool. So as you go into UVU, I actually brought this up to you at the Costa Vita, but you may not remember this. I was asking you a question because it's it's intriguing to me. When I talked to Matt Brown, who was on my podcast, he wrestled at Penn State under Sanderson. He told me that when he got into college, it was different because he was a really highly recruited individual going into college. But depending on the weight class, like there might already be an All-American on that weight class or somebody who's going to be like wrestling there. So it was interesting to me because he had to like figure out what weight class he was going to wrestle in and where he could fit in best and where he could actually compete at early on in his career. So I was curious, what is your plans and what weight class? What's the situation looking like for you as you come into your freshman year at UVU?
Yeah, for sure. So kind of crazy, but Penn State, we just got a big transfer. He's a Utah boy. He's coming home to Terrell Bearclaw's name, and he's coming to UVU now. So like one of the biggest transfers. Like that dude could be a national champion next year. He's in the run. I mean, he had 2 losses last year, and one was to the national champ, and the other one was to the guy who got third. I mean, that dude's already there, so he's gonna put UVU on notice. He's wrestling 165. My plan is the coach's staff wants me to be 84 next year and go into the weight a little bit. I walk around 90, 91 right now. So, I mean, I'm filling in. And then eventually maybe if I get bigger, like 84, 97. So, yeah, kind of crazy. I mean, I've been wrestling like 75 most of the summer here and there, and then I went up to 90 for duels, but I'm actually going to go back down to 75 for Fargo because I just feel like I'm bigger and better there. Like I just like give it all. It's my last time making weight, and then it's going to be all about getting stronger, bigger, and filling into my body. But yeah, so the plan is probably for me, I would assume be 84 for the next good while.
Heck yeah, man. Do you have a preference between Greco, freestyle? Like what's your preference, or do you just go out there and wrestle?
I'd say folk style is my favorite, to be honest. I love bottom and top wrestling. I love wrestling on my feet a lot, but I love being able to just freaking torch on some kids on top and just put them through some pain. I love it.
I freaking love it, dude. Absolutely love it. So I do have a question for you, Hudson. What is your goal after the wrestling days are done? Let's say you've wrestled, I don't know, maybe you're going to continue on after college and trying to compete for I don't know what your plan is, but like when the days are done, do you intend on like staying involved in wrestling, like maybe how your dad was coaching? Like if you want to be a coach, or do you have aspirations for a different type of career path yet? Have you thought about that at this point?
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna go into some business finance degree. I'm not exactly sure like the route. For sure, some entrepreneurship. I mean, I already like sell wrestling shoes on like my Instagram page. Already has like 6,500 followers, and yeah, I mean, I don't know. Probably like I want to have my own business one day and like sell businesses and own a few businesses, run them and sell them and make a bunch of money. Like that's my plan. And obviously, I feel like my whole life it'll definitely be surrounded by wrestling. I mean, I definitely never want to not have wrestling in my life. So I'm sure. I don't know. Me and my buddies always talk about running back and going coach high school together, or maybe I'm maybe down the line. Maybe I love college wrestling and maybe I'll coach at college. So I don't know. Like. But definitely like that door's open because I mean I just love being around wrestling.
Yeah, dude, no doubt. So NIL is a big thing for athletes right now. Do you have any NIL deals? Do you intend on taking advantage of the name, image, and likeness regulations that are out there now, and where athletes can,
So
monetize?
as of right now, I don't have any. But like as I reach my goals at UVU, like we've already talked about it, like like I just gotta go get it. I gotta go chase it, right, and go get them. Like go find some for myself, and opportunities come when you perform. So I'm excited, and like we're in the Big 12 conference, and so I feel like me going out and shining like nice and early as a young buck, I think it'd be big. So I think as I go, the opportunities will come. I don't have any right now, but yeah.
Man, just starting from a business perspective, you're talking about like you love businesses. This is just a side note. Like I would love to see like a behind the scenes, whether it's a podcast, a YouTube channel, whatever, even just like a TikTok or Instagram channel of just like the behind the scenes of a wrestler, like an athlete. So dude, I don't know, maybe you consider that one day, like once you get your, your grounding over there and you're ready to rock and roll. Maybe you pop up a podcast that you do once a week with other wrestlers, behind the scenes footage of like what it's like. I don't know.
Yeah. So about a year ago, I wanted to start a podcast because I love like talking to my buddies. I know so many guys that are on such a high level right now that I could get on a podcast, which is kind of sweet. I was going to call it like Hudson's Homeboys and like get on and start one. I just feel like I'm so busy, like I could just, but I'm figuring out like I got a camera. I also do that as a side hustle a little bit. I have a camera, so I video and take pics of my buddies, and like it's been super fun. I got to do it a lot during football season. Kind of slowed down after football season because I was just so focused on wrestling. But I got my camera and I take it to most of my tournaments and stuff.
Dude, you're a creator, man. You got that visionary mindset, and I think that's dope. I was just, I'm not saying you have to do that, but if you ever need help with the podcast, you know who to call, man. I'd be happy to help you out and set one up if you ever need one. And I just think it'd be cool. Like you got, if you find the time, but I'm sure it's going to get super, super busy as you get acclimated to the college athlete world. So where it's like school, books, and they used to call this in football. They used to say books and ball. So I don't know. It's the same concept for wrestling, books and ball. You're focusing on academics, and that's that. And then like, that's what you're focused on for the whole time you're there. So, last question for you. What at this point, Hudson, is the biggest life lesson that wrestling has taught you?
Man, that's a good one. I'd say, like you said earlier, like mental toughness and how to fight through things when things are hard. Like there's so many times where I could fall over and just quit. You know what I mean? Like I just feel like I have a super strong mindset because of wrestling, and like I feel like I know how to do hard things, and I feel like it's taught me that. And like my dad says, he's like, wrestling, like I already know, it's like taught you how to do hard things, and like if you can do that, then I feel like you can do anything, So I feel like that's definitely one of the big things.
So awesome, man. Like do hard things. I say it all the time. Like even people that are my age and older, like I'm sure your dad has said the same thing. They just don't know how to do hard things. And that's why they start to crumble in life, because life gets hard as you get older. There's finances and bills and all these things you got to go through, and you go through ups and downs of everything. And if you don't do hard things to like learn how to overcome adversity, those are the type of people that tend to crumble. And like, so I think it's awesome that you're recognizing that now through the sport of wrestling. Like doing hard things truly does teach you how to handle tough moments. And I don't think people understand that. That's why I love sports in general, for that exact reason. There's parallels between sports and life. And I think that's awesome that you recognize that, man. Well, Hudson, dude, we're gonna be cheering you on. I'm stoked. I want to say thank you. Thank you for joining me and being willing to share your story. And I hope those who are listening to it, follow you and follow your journey. And if you decide to, push content out there in the future, hopefully we'll be able to follow you. But tell us where we can follow you. I know you mentioned you have a shoe, like you sell shoes on Instagram. Like what are the pages that we can follow you on? You on?
I'm big on Instagram. I'm not much of a X guy or Twitter or whatever it is called now, but Hudson_Rogers1's my Instagram, and then my shoe page is Idaho_funky. So
okay,
yep.
I'm gonna link that here in the description for you guys, and that way we can all give you a follow. And for all those who are listening, hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. All I ask in return is that you guys leave us a review or you follow me. My YouTube channel is relatively small. All my listeners are pretty much all audio, but if you want to follow on YouTube so you can actually watch the interview, hit that subscribe button, follow it. And if you're on, Apple Podcasts or Spotify, just leave me a review. That's all I ask. It's free to do so. Just leave a review. It takes 20 seconds, if that. And it helps the show get out to more and more people. But if you subscribe to the podcast, you'll be able to hear all the interviews that we've done in the last 7.5 years, as well as the ones that will come, because we'll be coming to you next week with another one. So take care.
Sweet.
Guys, thanks so much for listening to another episode of my show. Now, if you could go and do me a favor, head over to iTunes, give me 5 stars, and leave me a review. It would be greatly appreciated. Thanks, guys. Appreciate your support.